can I say something real quick? You got a guy saying, I'd like to come back. And I know you're trying to be cautious for the long term. Long term, like the moment's now.
This New Orleans Pelicans team surprised all of us in a truly remarkable fashion. They started the entire season winning 1 out of 12 games. And as the season continued on, the only narratives we were hearing was about how much Zion wanted out and how much he wanted to potentially join a team like the New York Knicks. Especially once the New York Knicks went ahead and paired RJ Barrett with Cam Reddish. Do you remember when that was a narrative? I do. And this team had one of the greatest rebounds in the entire NBA, doing a complete 180 and getting to a point where they were giving the Phoenix Suns a run for their money. And their future is a little interesting, and we're gonna get to that in just a sec. Before we get to the content, I want to let you guys know that my $500 giveaway to any subscriber that turns on my notifications on this channel is back. And also make sure you check out our Discord, a link to that's in the description down below. Now that we get all that out of the way, cue the intro. Mic check 1 2 1 2. What's going on, everybody? You know what this year's New Orleans Pelicans team reminds me of? They're not exactly like this, but they're very similar to this. Do you remember the Los Angeles Clippers the very year before they were able to acquire Kawhi Leonard and Paul George? That 2019 playoff run where they really gave the Golden State Warriors a run for their money off the backs of players like Danilo Gallinari, Montrezl Harrell, Lou Williams. Patrick Beverley was the heart and soul of that team. Now that I think of it, I think Patrick Beverley just lives for the first round of NBA playoff series. I mean, he really turns it up. But jokes aside, this year's New Orleans Pelicans just remind me of that. They just entered this year's NBA playoffs, and everybody kind of looked at them thinking, you guys don't really belong here. And it seems like they really took that to heart, and they really took it to the Phoenix Suns. I mean, this wasn't a team that was just going to be a doormat and an easy sweep for the defending Western Conference champions. This was a team that was getting into the face of Chris Paul. You had Jackson Hayes with that insane flagrant foul earlier on in the series. Herb Jones looking at Chris Paul like he legitimately wanted to hurt the man. And all in all, even when they finally did get eliminated from the first round, it was on the back of a perfect game from Chris Paul. Like a legitimate perfect game where he didn't miss a single shot from the field. And that's something that could be respected, and that's something that you could be excited about. However, the difference between the New Orleans Pelicans of this year and those Los Angeles Clippers is the Los Angeles Clippers ended up signing Kawhi Leonard, trading their entire future for Paul George, and about a year and a half later, they essentially gutted out all of their role players. The New Orleans Pelicans, on the other hand, are in a different situation. Their situation is one that they already have their franchise cornerstone. They're just waiting for him to get healthy. It's like the 2019 Los Angeles Clippers meets the 2016 Philadelphia 76ers. You already have your star player on your team, and he's shown you some promise in 31 games played. You're just waiting for him to get fully healthy and for him to really take the next step. So it looks like the New Orleans Pelicans have the best of both worlds, but what about Zion Williamson? Well, I don't know if you guys have been paying attention to this, and back when the Laced Up podcast was a thing, we were discussing this quite frequently, where Zion Williamson, if he really wanted out of New Orleans, which according to multiple articles in the past, Zion Williamson's family doesn't want Zion to play for the New Orleans Pelicans. There were points of contention between Zion Williamson and the New Orleans Pelicans about him being able to play and how conservative they were with playing him. I mean, the New Orleans Pelicans were not willing to let Zion Williamson play in this year's playoff series, despite them looking fairly promising and Zion Williamson throwing down these jaw-dropping dunks. And this has been a recurring theme of the past. I mean, during his rookie year, the same thing happened. He tore a meniscus in his knee, and this was supposed to be a 1 to 2 month recovery period for him. He didn't recover until the middle of the season. This year, he broke his foot. We didn't even know he broke his foot when training camp came around. It was just a surprise thing that David Griffin told us on media day, and we thought, okay, maybe he's going to return at some point this season. He never returned. So there were rumors festering about this New Orleans Pelicans team, and ultimately there was this one bizarre narrative that I'm going to admit we would bring up on the podcast quite frequently, that if Zion Williamson was so frustrated with the New Orleans Pelicans, then he could just accept his qualifying offer, which would be something in the range of $4 to $7 million for one season, and then he could hit unrestricted free agency. And no player has done this in NBA history, mainly because who the hell would turn down an opportunity to sign $220 something million just so you could choose a different team at the earlier stages of your career? That's a pretty big risk to take. And you have to bear in mind, at this point in Zion Williamson's career, yes, he is a multi-millionaire as a result of being the first pick in the 2019 NBA draft and endorsements like this Mountain Dew endorsement that completely sabotaged his image. But the very first contract a NBA player gets is one that sets him up for generational wealth. That's kind of why you don't see these players switching teams until their late 20s. Once they collected that very first big NBA contract, then they'll feel a little bit more comfortable taking a little less money to switch teams. Because at this point, if you invested that $220 million intelligently, then you should be fine financially for the rest of your life. So with that being said, Zion Williamson was asked about his future with the New Orleans Pelicans very shortly after the Pelicans lost to the Phoenix Suns in a remarkable series, might I add. And this is coming to us from Andrew Lopez. Bear in mind, if Zion Williamson makes an All-NBA team next year, the New Orleans Pelicans could offer him a 5-year, $223 million extension during the summer. That's a pretty big if, and to be honest, that would be an absolute heist from Zion Williamson. Just imagine the man wasn't able to really stay healthy during his first 3 years of his career. He comes back during year 4 and at the buzzer gets an All-NBA team and is able to sign a 5-year, $223 million contract extension, which by the way is very likely because in the only full season that Zion Williamson played, this man averaged the most obscene statistics that I've ever seen a player average during his first full season or his sophomore season. The man averaged 27 points per game off of 61% shooting. And this is while the New Orleans Pelicans were trying to figure out how to use him. So just imagine if he's able to come back a full season next year, this man is set up to be very, very rich in the future if he's able to achieve this feat. When Zion Williamson was asked what his future was going to look like and whether he would re-sign with the New Orleans Pelicans, he had this to say: "Of course, I couldn't sign a contract extension fast enough." Which I can't even believe that I need to make a video on this because I figured this is something that's like,
No duh.
what is he going to do? Enter restricted free agency and then some team is going to offer him the same exact money so the Pelicans could match any contract that Zion Williamson gets? There's no way that this man could get traded until, no joke, the end of the 2020s. That's how far away we are from Zion Williamson entering unrestricted free agency. Now, of course, something else bizarre could happen, and as a result of it, Zion Williamson could potentially be dangled as trade bait by the New Orleans Pelicans, but I don't think this is something that was that surprising. This just completely shatters the narrative, which, to be honest, was a long shot to begin with, that Zion Williamson would sign a very small qualifying offer just so he could become an unrestricted free agent next year. And to be honest, I don't think he has that type of leverage. When you've been injured as much as Zion Williamson so far, and assuming, let's just make the assumption that he's not able to get down to playing weight next year, which I'm confident he will at this point, there's way too much on the line for him not to, then obviously you're going to opt for that stability. Even if he doesn't make an All-NBA team, even if that contract is going to look significantly lighter, he's still going to make over like $150 million. So regardless, Zion Williamson is not going anywhere. He's going to be a part of this New Orleans Pelicans team, and the Pelicans have a very bright future with him, CJ McCollum, Jackson Hayes, Herb Jones, Brandon Ingram. They're all learning how to play together without Zion Williamson there this year, and I can only imagine what happens when they finally integrate Zion Williamson back into the offense fully. I absolutely love everything that the New Orleans Pelicans have done. It's been a rocky few years for them, don't get it wrong. It took them some time to figure out who the right head coach was, but I think they nailed it with Willie Green. They found the right complementary pieces for Zion Williamson as well. And to be honest, as frustrating as it's been, I have to admit, they handled Zion Williamson's injury concerns perfectly. If it was me, I would have been so anxious to play this guy, but again, the longer they hold him out of action, the greater his odds are of staying healthy. Typically, players sustain the worst injuries during the beginning of their career and when they're not in proper playing shape. So major props to the New Orleans Pelicans. They're very poised, they're very patient, the future is looking bright for them. And if you didn't know, your star player, if you were to offer him $223 million over the next 5 years, he would sign it. So let me know in the comment section down below what you guys think about all this, man. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike, and I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.